Welcome back, guys, to another Careful for Spoilers movie review, and welcome back to our spoilers review of Stephen King's 2017 adaptation, It. Guys, the non-spoiler review has been blowing up, and I thank you guys so much for watching the video. We had a couple viewers asking for us to do a spoilers video, which I usually do on my podcast, so I'm really glad that you guys suggested it, because it was a really cool idea to get Mia back in the video, and we are going to talk about all the cool spoilers. Now, I had a friend ask me, why does Pennywise eat children? Because he's a complete scaredy cat, and he does not like scary movies at all. And I was like, well, the chemicals that our bodies make when we have fear apparently salts the meat, according to Pennywise, and it makes human flesh even more delicious. Now, when it comes to children, the taste of children is even better to Pennywise, so that's why he eats children. And it's really the mythology and everything that Stephen King creates about the it creature, whatever it is obviously this eternal flesh-eating, like, extraterrestrial alien thing that just terrorizes people every 27 years. And some of my favorite moments with Pennywise is there's a scene with him at the end in the well with Bev just dancing and just seeing all of the kids floating. It's so just fucking creepy imagery. Like, the film isn't necessarily like this huge, like, scary horror film. It's the suspense. It's the atmospheric fear that is felt throughout the entire film with the kids that I thought were really amazing. Like, do you have any favorite Pennywise moments?
Honestly, some of my favorite moments were in the house, because I feel like at that point you had this, like, pinnacle for him where he started to realize that every time he shows up, these kids are always banded together, and I feel like that started to mess with him a little bit, because when they finally rushed into the kitchen to check on Eddie, they were just like, okay, he's here. He stopped. He looked at us. He's like, am I not real enough for you? And I was just like, okay.
I thought that was really funny.
Yeah, he's just...
Am I not real enough for you? It was real enough for Georgie. I'm like, oh man, that's so messed up.
It is. And, at the end of the day, I think one of the biggest things that people forget, and you have to go into this movie with a little bit more of an open and insightful mindset, is that you're not going to watch something that you're expecting, jump scares and just the typical horror tropes. You have to think about it as, yes, it's a horror movie, and I wouldn't quite put it in the realm of a psychological thriller. It's kind of somewhere in the middle.
Kind of.
That's the thing. I wouldn't really go with psychological thriller, because I feel like people just love to throw that, like, term around to try and, like, off-shift it from a horror. It was adapted from a horror novel. It is a horror. However, we have to take our minds out of the conventional idea that horror can only be, like, typical cheesy, like,
slasher stuff.
Exactly. That's not really what horror... That's not the only thing that horror encompasses. Horror is the overarching genre. Yes, there are subgenres, but don't take what it is away from it. Don't try to take the greatness that it is and everything that Stephen King worked so hard to create away from it. At the end of the day, what I'm trying to say is, it is something that works on so many deep psychological points that you have to look at the fact that he's trying to reach into the minds of children, right? So he's going to do everything that scares them. Now, if you're not thinking about it from that perspective, as simple as that may sound, a lot of people, the reactions that I've read and seen is that people are, the small percentage of people that don't like this movie, I somewhat feel as though they're looking at it from the perspective of, okay, this is just another horror movie, I'm not really going to think about it any deeper, and all of the scares seem cheesy because you're taking it at face value. You can't. He is trying to break down these children. So he has to do things that are going to scare children. when you were a child, I'm sure all of the fears you had at that point seem illogical to you now.
And my fears were Tim Curry dressed up as a clown, as Pennywise. He has ruined me. Like, I saw that movie way too young, and seeing Pennywise, Tim Curry, scared the absolute shit about me. You mentioned all the scenes in the house, like, there's the one scene where Richie goes into the room with all the clowns because Pennywise knows that he's afraid of clowns. And we get a really cool Easter egg of a Tim Curry painting and a Tim Curry doll that looks dressed up exactly like his Pennywise, which I thought was a really cool Easter egg. There's so many different things that Pennywise does to just hone in on their fare. And it's Stan who is afraid of the painting of the woman with the misshapen face and the flute, which I also find really creepy, dude. Oh my god. Do you want to talk about the painting?
Yes. Oh my god. So I am one of those weird people that I have a fear of people with like really like elongated faces.
She doesn't like the Elephant Man.
Oh, I mean, that's not his fault, but yes, I have this thing with disfigured faces that just freaks me out in real life. Just like, it doesn't even have to be anything monstrous, just people with like really long faces. Like, I make a joke and I call it somebody that has a horse face. So her face is like this like long thing, and it's like curving into the side, and she looks all like gangly and strange, and it's just like, what is that?
No, Superman no hair.
I don't like it.
I don't like it at all. And Pennywise has this amazing ability. Like, his shape-shifting abilities are insane. And in the book, he shapeshifts into so many different creatures just to scare these kids. And I find it really amazing what he's willing to do to scare the shit out of these kids. Now, throughout the movie, he never really tries to mess with Richie, which I find really interesting. It's the same thing in the Tim Curry version. He never really messes with Richie. He reaches out to everyone else and scares the shit out of them, like diving into all of the stuff going on with Bev and with her dad. And it's a really hard topic to go into and to talk about. And I really appreciate the filmmakers, ability to handle that with sensitivity and wanting to, talk about a topic like that, and bringing that aspect into this film and dealing with Bev having to deal with her father and then having to deal with the terror of Pennywise affecting her, which ultimately feeds into her fare. And it's amazing. Like, how do you feel about, Bev's part of the storyline in this movie?
I feel like it's definitely one of those things where it could have gone the wrong direction, so to speak. Now, obviously, there is a different viewpoint from the actual source material, to which me and James have gotten into long debates about, because I'm somebody that's very, interested in the way that the human psyche works, and I won't get too far into that right now, but I feel like, to James's point, they did handle it with some sensitivity. You could see some of those notes from the original source material there, the way that she interacted with the guys, but I think that it was handled the right way, especially for something that you're going to put out as, a major film production. You don't want it to head too far into what some people would consider indie territory, because it starts to become something that's almost too touchy for the general public. So,
yeah. What would you say is the scariest scene in the movie? Like, the most unsettling scene? Like, I have one in mind if you need some time to think about it. Like, mine would be...
Yeah, you go first.
The scene inside Billy's house when he sees Georgie and he goes into the basement and Georgie is just standing there in the corner talking about how he lost the boat and is like, if you come with me, you'll float too. You'll float too. You'll float too. And I'm like, no. And Pennywise starts to rise out to the water and he could see Pennywise walking Georgie like a puppet. And then he just throws Georgie into the water and just... I'm like, nope, I'm good. I'm good. I don't like clowns. I don't like Pennywise. And nope, I'm good. Again, goosebumps thinking about it right now. I'm good. Like that was definitely one of the most unsettling moments in the movie. Besides, like when he was doing the weird dance in the saws with Bev. Like I also thought that was so creepy, so unsettling. Like again, Bill Skarsgård's performance as Pennywise, like it's so different from Tim Curry because I mean that was made for TV. Like I feel like if Tim Curry did a film version that was a hard R version, like I feel like Tim Curry would crush it because he was so creepy in the TV miniseries. But Bill Skarsgård is absolutely incredible. There's this scene where Eddie is walking by the well house.
Yes.
And he sees like the diseased person that have like pus all over his face and like an eye about to pop out. Because I mean that's his greatest fear, a fear that his mother has instilled into him by giving him these placebos and making him think that something is wrong with him to keep him locked up in the house. And me and I were actually just talking about this before we started the video. Is like the adults don't seem to really pay attention to all of the missing kids, and it's like, do they actually pay attention? Because it seems like Eddie's mom is constantly trying to keep him in the house to stop him from being kidnapped. So is she aware? Are some people aware? Are some people just like not wanting to pay attention to it? Or are they actually oblivious because of the influence that Pennywise has? Like, well, what do you think?
I think personally, unlike the source material where it seemed as though there would literally be this haze where people would, I guess, their memories would go so deep into their subconscious that they forgot until like something drastic like triggered it. I feel like in the movie that they're fairly aware. Like we went back and forth about the scene where Georgie in the beginning of the movie was, talking to Pennywise. And whether or not the old lady was aware of what was going on or not.
Yeah, it's really hard to say whether or not. Because, I mean, just a normal person, you see a kid in a raincoat playing in the rain. I mean, that's what kids do. And I'm sure from her perspective, she thought that maybe he just lost a toy in the sores. Like, maybe she didn't really notice it. Or since Pennywise was around, was Pennywise's influence affecting her?
Who knows? I don't know. I just found it kind of strange. Like, everybody handles things differently. To your point, just like, well, not my kid, not my problem, I guess.
Yeah.
But if I see a kid in the middle of a really bad windstorm, which they didn't portray as badly as it actually is in the source material.
It was pretty bad.
They just made it seem like it was like this one occurrence of a bad rainstorm, when really in the source material it was like this traumatic storm that happened, and the last bad storm they had was about 27 years before that. So It's almost like another thing. Does Pennywise bring ominous weather? I don't know, but it's one of those things where I would have went and tried to see what was wrong with the little kid, because you're staring into a storm drain, and even if there's nothing supernatural going on, you're like this big, and the storm drain is like this big. And the water might just sweep you in there. So I would be concerned. I would go check on the kid. But I don't know. Who knows? Maybe she doesn't give a shit.
And I'm pretty sure that she regretted it. And who knows? Like, we really don't know, because they don't exactly go into it into the film. That would be, technically a waste of screen time. But it's like, what was going through her head at the time? And when she does see the blood in the water, like, does she run inside and call the police? Because it's very ambiguous. You don't really know what she does next. All we know is that we find out that Georgie is dead. Now, going on to Ben, who I think the actor did an amazing job. And all the kids were amazing. Like, all of these kids made me feel all of their fear, all of their moments, like running from Henry. Dude, let me tell you, I despise bullies, and Henry is the stereotypical, my daddy beats me, and in order for me to find some kind of dominance, I have to pick on little children. You're pathetic, dude. You are the most pathetic little human being. As he carves an H into Ben's stomach, and I'm like, dude, you are so pathetic. And the character of Ben and the somewhat love triangle between him, Bev, and Bill was so cute, and I felt like they handled it very subtle in the film. Like, how do you feel about it?
I I think so too. I mean, I feel like she almost kind of liked Bill a little bit more, but she liked Ben's personality.
Yeah.
Which is typical teenage stuff. You're vain. You like the guy that looks better. And it's like she asked Bill first when he was in the bathroom with her when they were helping her clean up that whole mess.
Which was really fucking creepy, dude. Like all the blood and everything.
That was fucked up.
But knowing that you're the only one that could see it. Well, not the only one, but knowing like adults couldn't see it or anything like
exactly,
that.
Exactly. Like, yeah. Nonetheless. But yeah, I mean, I felt like, okay, she asked him first. She could have asked Ben.
Your hair is like winter fire.
Embers.
It's such a cool poem. And,
it is.
And yeah, I mean, naturally you go with the one that's most attractive, but, Ben has heart and he's a great guy. He's a great kid.
Exactly. He's a sweet kid.
Who is the history buff in this movie, and in the book and in the Tim Curry miniseries, that person is actually Michael, was a completely different story. And watching it the second time, you do pick up on more things. Like, Mike is talking to his grandfather, and his grandfather is telling him that we have two places in this life. You could be the one holding the gun, or you could be the one with the gun to your head. And that comes up later on in the film at the well, in the well house.
Literally.
Yeah. Where Henry has the bolt gun to his head and he snaps out of it. He attacks Henry and throws him down the well, and he realizes that this is a dog-eat-dog wall, and if you are going to survive, you have to pull the trigger. Yep. And it's like there's so many different things that these kids go through, and I can't wait to see how they're going to handle it in chapter 2, where we get to see the adults. And the kids did such an amazing job. It kind of scares me going into chapter 2, trying to find the right adults to continue on the story. Yes, they'll do flashbacks, so we'll have more of a comparison between the kids and the adults, but in the Tim Curry version, like we mentioned in the non-spoiler review, the adult actors were really awful. Like, the acting was beyond terrible. And some people would make the excuse that, yeah, it was a TV miniseries. Then explain why the kids were so good. Like, you could find adult actors that were better actors. Really it has nothing to do with the film. Tim Curry was great. The children were great. So why couldn't the adults be great? And I'm really hoping that they find... And I know they will, because obviously the people that made this film really cared about the source material. Yeah. Really cared about Stephen King's influence into this horror genre. And I can't wait.
Neither can I. I'm very excited. I feel like they set it up very well. If you actually stayed until the end of the credits, which, there wasn't an after credit scene, but they put the title back up on the screen and you hear Pennywise laugh, and it's just like, obviously anybody that knows anything knows that Pennywise didn't die, but still,
he'll be back.
Just little Easter egg, little sprinkles.
Yeah, it's anyone who likes, like, Goonies and movies like that, Stranger Things, like, just to see these group of kids together literally fighting their fears against Pennywise, like, watching them rise up against him at the end, like, that was also one of my favorite moments in the scene, watching them just beat the shit out of Pennywise. Yeah. It's like, Richie, man. Richie is just the coolest character in the whole movie.
He's just so much. Like, he just, like, of course, typical story plot point, twist and turn, just like, make it seem like you're gonna give up on your friend. He's like, I'm gonna have to kill this clown.
I'm gonna have to kill this fucking clown. I was like, Richie is so cool, man.
This is hilarious. I loved it. I loved every moment of it. You could just see Pennywise struggling to keep, the power in the situation, just switching between the different, characters, trying to,
trying to draw their fear.
Draw their fear that one last time, and they're just like, nope, not having it. Yeah. Fuck you, buddy.
There was another thing that I didn't notice from the first time that we watched it, where they were all like at the fair or something, and Michael was talking about how his parents were locked up in this house that burned down. Mm-hmm. And I didn't realize that when he goes to like the meat locker in the beginning, well, not the meat locker, but when he was going to drop off the meat, watching the bone and hands coming out the door, like I didn't piece it together. I don't know why I didn't piece those two things together, but seeing it the second time was like, oh, that's his fear, seeing the bone and hands calling out for help.
Yeah.
And he couldn't do anything the first time, like, you know, that would scare the shit out of anyone, because I assume he was, you know, a little younger when that happened to him. So it's like, I don't know, man, like Pennywise's ability to really feed on fear and find out the fear of these kids and really like just pushing it into their face. Like, I have a phobia of snakes, and I can't imagine what it would be like to see Pennywise. I hate clowns. And then to have Pennywise like show snakes around me, yeah, I'll just die right here pretty much. Like, because I can't deal, man. Like, the film is just so unsettling. Again, it's not like some cheesy slasher film where it's just like ridiculous amount of jump scares and gore and stuff like that. No, this film, Pennywise's whole thing is to mess with your psyche, to make you feel fear so that you taste sweeter.
Yeah, and that's all it is. You just have to go into it looking at it from that perspective. You cannot walk into this movie thinking, okay, I'm going to go watch another typical Hollywood blockbuster horror film. That's not what this is. Look at it from the deeper level of exactly what James just said. It's simple. He is literally the epitome of anything and everything that you fear. So whatever that means to you at whatever stage in your life is what he's going to manifest.
And my whole thing, it's like the kind of fear that he brings up in 27 years when they become adults. Like, they forget everything over the 27 years, and when Pennywise starts to return, those memories slowly start to come back, and it's almost like they're kids again, feeling the fear all over again as adults in their late 30s and their early 40s. Like, I can't imagine going through all of that as a kid and then 27 years later having to fight Pennywise again. He's eternal.
Yeah.
How do you fight that thing? Like, how do you keep fighting something like that every 27 years and stuff like that? It's really mentally stressful, and like, I can't wait to see how they're going to portray that in the film. Mia, do you have any final thoughts before we wrap up?
No, I mean, I agree wholeheartedly with what you said. I feel like it's one of those things where it's more scarring because you're forgetting, and then you have to remember, and then you're going to forget again, and then you have to remember. So it's like rehashing something that was already damaged, and then you're cutting right back into that same spot, and then letting it heal, and then cutting right back into that same spot. And that's the worst part. You're already psychologically completely fucked, and you can never heal from it.
Yeah.
You're just going to keep reliving it as long as, you know, that cycle for your, you know, lifespan exists. So.
Yeah, it's really messed up. Like, children go through trauma and spend years trying to get over it because they don't have to deal with that trauma again necessarily. Not these kids. In 27 years, they have to go through all of this trauma all over again. And I feel like this property created by Stephen King that pretty much came to him in a dream is just absolutely incredible. And I want to watch this film again for a third time, maybe a fourth time. I can't wait to buy the Blu-ray. We have the book right behind of us. I will be reading that again. Guys, thank you so much for watching this spoilers review. It was so much fun. When a couple more of my friends finally watch the film, I'm actually going to do a full-on spoilers podcast version of this. So if you like listening to podcasts, please head over to iTunes, follow me at Careful for Spoilers, and follow me all over social media at Careful for Spoilers, of course. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and I will see you guys next time.